watching the rise. And I wouldn't say I'm shocked, cause I'm hardly surprised. This one's for the ride. This one's for who knew I'd make it, just needed some time. This one's for my wife. Could've left 1,000 times just so by my side. This one's for the grind.
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Randy Kaye, and I'm the host of the Caught Up podcast. Today, we have Brentt Eads. He is an expert in digital and print media with over 25 years of experience in the fast pitch community. He is currently the executive editor for a company that he founded back in January of 2024, Line Drive Media. Brentt, it's always great to see you. Thanks for taking the time to catch up.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, cool. So that's a pretty nice title, executive editor. And the other thing that caught my mind is what does it mean exactly to be an expert in the field of digital and print media?
What that entails is I started my career. I actually come from a music background, and I got a Bachelor of Arts in Music, and I was going to go in the music industry. I had an internship with a record company out of Los Angeles, and I showed up and the internship was gone because the guy had left the company. So I'm like, crap, now what do I do? And just, I didn't want to work in music. So I ended up getting an MBA, Master's in Business at Loyola Marymount. And if you know your history, if you're old enough like I am, I happened to be there when Hank Gathers and Bo Kimball were there. And you may remember Hank Gathers collapsed on the court and died in the West Coast Conference. I was there. I mean, I wasn't at that game, but later ESPN did a broadcast of the memorial service, and you can see me in the crowd.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, so how do I go from that to softball? Well, I ended up, as I did my MBA, I did a master's thesis, and I ended up quoting a guy named Andy Bark, who had played football Cal, and he had started a company called Cal High Sports and later Student Sports. And I was about the fourth or fifth person in. I had quoted Andy in my master's thesis, sent him a copy as an, oh, by the way, here, I just thought you might be interested in this. He called me in, and I ended up getting a job out of it. And this is how old I am, pre-internet. So I was at Student Sports, and they had a magazine. I ended up being the publisher of their magazine. And kind of my claims to fame were I interviewed LeBron James when he was in high school, and many other athletes. We went to a football combine, and there was a quarterback that was good. He was not great. He was good. And he ended up having two offers. One was Cal, one was Michigan. He went to Michigan, and everybody wanted Drew Henson, the All-American, to start. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I think so.
Yeah. So I'll give you some more hints, and you'll pick it up.
Is he from the Bay Area?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah. I think we're on the same page.
Went to a Reebok combine. He did well, but I mean, did he look like, Eli Manning or Peyton Manning? No. But he ended up going to Michigan, and everybody wanted this guy named Drew Henson to be the star because he was an All-American. And this other guy ended up only winning, I think, 7 Super Bowls. You know who it is. It's Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So I got to be in the high school sports business, and we ran this magazine, monthly magazine, and then this thing called the internet comes around. And so we started that. And I remember we would do like one post a day, no pictures. I mean, it was ugly. But I kind of been very fortunate. I've just been around when these huge technology things have come through. So I was in the print magazine business at first, and that taught me how to work on deadlines and how to get things done and how to do the whole. And again, I don't come from a journalistic background, but I quickly learned because if I'm doing a story on LeBron James, I've got to figure out what's the angle, what's the lead, what's the interesting thing about this, why is this relevant? So as we did, so it taught me early on how to find what makes an athlete interesting. My favorite question today, even to today, to ask is tell me something unusual or different about you, whoever you are that I'm interviewing, that most people don't know. What's your claim to fame? And like for me, if somebody would ask me, I'd say, well, I'm adopted and I've had a chance to meet my birth parents, and, I was raised by adopted parents, but just something off the ordinary, not that I had 30 points and 18 rebounds and, that's great. Or I had 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, or I pitched a 2-hitter. That's fine. That's great for on the field. But for me, what I love about what I do is finding stories that tell the human experience. And I just about 2 weeks ago did a story. This girl went to the PGF Ultimate Challenge. She's on California Great Bets. Her mom is her coach. And this girl ended up making the all-tournament team. She did very well. But the thing that was noticed about her was she had, I don't even know what to call it, a vent and a tube. And as I dug deeper in the story and talked to her mom, she has now had over, and this is I want to say she'll be 15 in January, but she's had over 40 surgeries, 40 surgeries.
Wow.
And this kid is still out there battling, fighting. She has another surgery coming up. I think it's gastro kind of intestinal issues, but this kid is an inspiration. And I even sent this to Gary Hanning. And he said, yeah, this is the kind of thing that inspires me. Gary Hanning, of course, legendary coach, started OC Batbuster.
For sure.
That's what I'm excited about, is to tell the human experience, not just overcoming odds, but, the Tom Brady's, not the biggest name coming out of high school, had 2 offers, as far as I can remember, Cal and Michigan. And he goes to Michigan and ends up being the greatest quarterback of all time if you're going by Super Bowl. So I've been able to do that in softball. And the way I got into softball, I know I'm taking over your interview, Randy.
Please do. No, please do. It's more interesting when you talk than when I talk. Trust me.
You're fun. Thank you. So one day my boss, Andy, called me in and he said, Brentt, I want you to start a softball website. And student sports had different verticals. When I was there, I did a lot in football, like I'm telling you about the Tom Brady's and the.
Yeah. What do you mean by verticals?
Verticals.
What does that mean? Football,
Baseball, boys basketball, girls basketball.
Okay.
The boys volleyball, girls. So just the vertical of a sport that.
Okay.
And I want to say we covered 12 to 14. Track, boys track, girls track, boys cross country. So that sense of a vertical. So I had started in the recruiting game in football, and I had seen how that worked, and the 5-star and the 4-star and all that, and same in basketball. And so Andy calls me in and says, I want you to start a softball website. And I'm going, why me? And again, the company's, let's say, about 13, 15 people at this time. He said, you're the only one that has a daughter that plays softball in the company. And I said, Andy,
where did she play?
I don't even remember.
Wow. Wow.
I said, Andy, she plays club softball, but at the lowest levels, basically a step over rec ball. But she's playing club softball and club soccer. And to be honest, I like soccer a lot more because she'll get 12 touches in a game, maybe score. And in softball, she plays right field, doesn't get any balls hit to her, goes 0 for 1, and we're out in Riverside, California, 110 degrees. We were in SoCal at the time. And he goes, I don't care. He said, Nike wants to give us $325,000 to do initiatives in baseball, softball, and soccer. And he said, we have a baseball website. We have a soccer website. Start a softball website and don't embarrass us. So fortunately, I had a friend at UCLA at the time. He was in the athletic department named Michael Sonheimer. And I called him and I basically said, Michael, help. I wouldn't know softball hit me upside the head. And he said, I want you to talk to 5 people. And Mike was very up there, UCLA. And this is when Sue Inquist is there and UCLA is, the New Yankees. I mean, they're winning. So he said, I want you to talk to Sue Inquist, Puppy, her assistant coach at the time.
Yep.
Mike Candrea. Then he said 2 club coaches, Tony Rico and Gary Hanning. And I remember, going in, and I can still picture in my mind, I'm sitting in Mike Candrea's office. This is 6 months before he coaches the Olympic team. And what
year was that?
Oh, gosh, I have no idea. It was before the first Olympics that softball was in. I don't know. But I'm thinking softball starting Olympics in 6 months. And here's the head coach at Arizona talking to me for an hour because he wants to grow his sport. And he wasn't talking down. He wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to get rid of this guy. Both Mike and Sue and Puppy, they were all very accommodating. And I learned that I wanted to do softball right. And I met with Tony Rico and Gary Hanning and other coaches and just saw that, wow, this is a fantastic sport. These are fantastic people. And so I was able to be given the information I needed. And, you go talk to this person, go talk to this person. And pretty soon I'm talking to everybody in softball. And they were, and I want to take a step back. The reason that was surprising to me is because I come from the football, baseball, and boys basketball world, where you had to go through like 5 layers of management. You had to cross the bridge and get the secret code. And it was very tough to reach the decision makers in those sports.
It was limited access.
Limited access. And softball, nothing like that. And so I got the website started, and I just started doing what I'd done before, the human interest, like we talked about, but stories, this kid named Jocelyn Allo, pretty good home run hitter. Let's talk to her. She's from Hawaii. What's that like? You have to travel every weekend and play, the OC Batbusters. So I quickly found out that these kids are super, super dedicated to what they do. Just as much as in the boys' sports. And, they're doing the training with the personal trainers and teachers and all of that stuff. And they're playing club and they're playing school ball. And I fell in love with the sport. And, I played baseball in high school, mediocre. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I grew up a big Reds fan, big Red Machine. And, I was fortunate when I was a kid. I got to see the Johnny Benches and the Pete Roses win 2 World Series in 75, 76. So I'm dating myself. That's 1975, not 1875, 1975, 19. And what happened is once I got into softball, I couldn't watch baseball anymore. It's too slow.
Yeah.
I love the sport. My wife is a Dodger fan. God bless her soul. She's in the room with me. But I couldn't tell you one person on the Reds today. I just don't follow baseball. 9 innings versus 7. Base paths are different. The mound is closer. You have this thing in softball called slapping, that makes the defense and the infield have to adjust. It's a whole nother sport, but I love it. And in baseball, you have 162,000 games, I think, in a summer. And, in softball, you have tournaments, but I fell in love with the sport. But most importantly, I fell in love with the people. And these girls are super achievers. Most of them are 3.7s, 4.0s, 4.5s, but they have the right priority. And the thing that was tough when I was covering youth, when I say youth, I mean high school football or club basketball, is they're all thinking what? They're all thinking 3 letters, MLB, NBA, NFL. And that's fine. That's very, very, very few make it, but it's fine to have that goal and desire. In softball, for good and bad, these girls are looking to get their education. They're looking to give back to the sport they love. They want to be part of it. A lot of them, as you know, end up being coaches, and what I love, one thing I love about what I do is I work with club coaches like you, who inevitably they start off because they want to help their daughter get in the sport. And then 30 years later, they're still coaching their daughters off having grandkids. But the people stay in the sport because they love the opportunity to be involved with a pure sport, a pure game where people are playing for the athleticism, the competition, not necessarily because they're looking to get a paycheck down the road.
Right. It's funny because you always wonder what keeps us going. And I every coach I talk to, it's about the relationships. It's about, what the girls bring to the table and how much, how hard they work. And it's just, I don't know if it goes, if it's noticed enough. So it's great to hear you say that as well. But I think you're right. I think that's what kind of keeps at least the dumb ones like me that stay around after my kids are done. But it's been great to me, and it's given back. What I want to ask you, you go from, like you say, not really knowing, much about fast pitch, and then you go right to the top and talk to people like, Gary Hanning and Tony Rico. What's that like? I mean, what did they give you anything? What was their feedback?
Just like I'm talking to you, conversational. Gary's funny. Tony is very chill. Just they're outstanding people. I mean, it'd be like talking to somebody you meet at work or somebody that a friend introduces you to. And the same with Tony, same with Gary. I'm in their offices for an hour going, wow, these guys aren't like, okay, I can give you 5 minutes, that's all. They're talking like, what do you want to do in this sport? Well, how do you want to approach it?
How can I help?
How can I help? Yeah. How can I help you promote the sport? And we hear that all the time. What can we do to build the sport, promote the sport? And I came in and I still look at it today. I'm media. I'm a media person. I'm not a recruiting company. I'm not a scout. I'm media. And I brought over into the rankings what I'd seen work on the boys basketball at that time, especially the football side, and baseball had its own kind of list of criteria. But I thought, why shouldn't these girls? And again, the rankings to me, it's an honor. If I say, Randy, you're the 100th best carpenter in the country. Well, it doesn't matter. You're one of the best. You're the 100th best scientist. So I'm thinking these are girls are softball players. If I can take that same mentality and approach to honor them, that they can be recognized. And, it's ironic. I'm in Dallas, but I often use the example. The Dallas Morning News is a newspaper. If they cover the football team and they do an all-state team, does that guarantee that these guys are going to be great in college and in the pros? No. But they're being recognized for what they're doing now. And they're being honored as all-state or second-team all-state or all-region or whatever. So I took the same mentality when it came to softball is I want these girls to be recognized. I want them to be honored. If a kid can someday tell her grandkids, I was ranked as the 20th best pitcher in the country in the class of 2019. That's something that you can put on a resume. That's something you can be proud of. And you can say, I worked hard. I traveled across the country. I played in Florida and Texas and California to hone my skills, but it was recognized. This media Yahoo named Brentt Eads of whatever company I'm with recognized me as the number 20 or 18 or 15 pitcher or the number 21 overall ranked player in the country. It comes down to one word, Randy, and this what I'm trying to do is honor these kids, recognize them for all that they do. And, as a club coach, and we can talk more about rankings, it's supposed to be that. It's supposed to be an honor. It's supposed to be like, I'm an all-state in basketball or something. And it's gotten to the point, and somehow it's kind of gone overboard where parents especially think, oh, my kid's not rated. Or it's like, yeah, if they're not all-state, by the Columbus Dispatch, I don't think Ohio State's not going to recruit your kid. So I always want to emphasize I'm media, and my secret sauce is talking to people, especially club coaches like you, the Gary Hannings, the Tony Ricos, to just try to find out what a kid is like. And as you know, being a coach, it's not just about how hard she can throw or how well she can hit, but it's how well do they work in support of their teammates? How well do they integrate with the team? And so there's a lot that goes into it. But for me, rankings, bringing it over from the football and basketball side was supposed to be, let's honor these athletes, these fantastic young ladies for what they do. And if, you're ranked, if you're fifth or you're 500th, I don't go that deep, but you can still say I was recognized as one of the best in the country.
What does it take to put that together? I mean, it's every time I turn around, I feel like there's always a deadline for a coach to get stuff in. Like, I can't imagine how much time and effort that takes you.
It takes a lot of time. It does, because let's say I'm doing a class I've never done before, and I'm just throwing this out, like 2030s. First, you need to, and this is my approach, need to know who the club coaches are that work with these kids. Who knows them best than the club coaches? And the other thing, and it's funny you say that, there's a lot of deadlines and stuff. There are a lot of deadlines, but one reason is because when I started, I was the only one doing rankings. And now there's like 4 or 5 other media companies trying to do the rankings. Why? Because it brings attention to the sport in a good way, unless it's done poorly. And let me take a side note there. One thing I always say about rankings is, coach, don't tell me you have 5 kids in the top 3. I mean, maybe Gary Hanning does, or Mike Stith or Tony Rico or whatever. But represent the kid where she should be. Don't try to oversell your kid, because what's that ultimately going to do? It's going to set a kid up for disappointment. If everyone goes, if I'm a Big Ten school and I go, yeah, this kid was ranked as number 5 player in the country, and I see her and she's batting .230 and she can't run down the first as a slapper. What are you doing? You're setting the kid up for disappointment. And
how often do you see that?
After a while, I've gotten to the point where I can tell. And a lot of times you'll see new coaches, club coaches come in and they don't have the perspective. If I talk to a Mike Stith, for example, or a Randy Kaye, I know you guys know your kids and know how they are comparatively and competitively across the country. And like if a Kevin Shelton would say, and I remember I covered a kid in the 7th grade who you may have heard of named Jada Coleman. Jada Coleman goes to Oklahoma, wins 4 national championships. I covered her in 7th grade, and it was clear she was a phenom. She's an outfielder. So she's maybe not impacting the game as much as a pitcher or a catcher or a power hitter like Jocelyn Allo, who she would end up playing with. But you can see in the 7th.
Stands out.
For sure. So that's what you're looking for. These kids are, and sometimes kids peak early. Sometimes kids emerge late. They might be a junior, senior before they become fantastic. Or like we mentioned earlier, Jocelyn Allo comes from Hawaii. Well, she was playing on the Bat Busters, so she eventually. But when you're first playing out in Hawaii, you don't know exactly how good a player is. She might be tearing it up on the islands, but you don't know if she comes to Southern California or Texas or Florida, how she's going to do comparatively. So It is a lot of research. And I compare it to, again, putting together an all-state team. You're not just going on stats. And like you said, how often does that happen, or asked, how often does it happen? It happens quite a bit. And so the people that I know and trust, and you're on that list, who've done this for a while are going to do what's best for the kid. And they're not going to say, well, this kid, she has one school looking at her, so I'm going to rank her as a top 10 kid. Is she deserving of that? But is that fair and honest to her? And so it is doing research, looking at kids, and again, it's talking to the coaches who I trust and are going to give me accurate information that's going to ultimately try to slot the kid where she realistically is. Now, I just did a story this morning I published on a kid that's going to Michigan State, 2026 going to Michigan State, and I didn't have her in the top 100. Does that mean she can't play? No, absolutely not. Maybe she played on a club team, and I'm not saying in this specific, but might have played on a club team that she didn't get as much exposure, didn't play at the big events, et cetera, et cetera. So it's always a work in progress. It's like the NFL draft. I mean, these guys have millions of dollars at their fingertips to do research, look at film, and talk to people. How often is your draft pick screwed up in the first round?
Right. That's a great analogy, by the way.
Yeah. So it's not a science. And that's why, a little sensitive here, but I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I grew up an Ohio State fan. Now I'm,
tough weekend.
That's my point. Okay. Ohio State's ranked number 2. Their only losses to Oregon. They're 20-point favorites at home over Michigan, and they don't score in the second half. It's not always how you draw it up or you think it's going to go. Tom Brady should have 450 offers come out of high school. He had 2.
Yeah.
And he did okay. So that's the point, is that it's competition. And you never know who's going to win, who's going to lose, who's going to have a letdown, who's going to up their game and go 5 for 5. So that's the same way in evaluating talent. I heard somebody say long time ago, a scout said, my job would be easy if you could do 2 things. If you can measure if a player has peaked, and if you can measure the size of his or her heart. You don't know. And that's what makes it fun. And I'm happy to say, yeah, I screwed up. You're going to Michigan State, and you should have been in the top 50, top 25. But, if you can put me up as bulletin board material and I can inspire you, go put an X on my face. Go to it. Make yourself better. That has happened, by the way. So,
well, I was going to ask you, do you ever cross-reference other people, such as, anybody who else, any other entity that does evaluations like On Deck or anybody like that? Do you?
Yes, I'm friends with Derek and Joanne, and I will reach out to them time to time. And again, it's part of the puzzle. If they do, an Alistair camp, and a girl runs a 2.60 hand timed, and it's legit, and she's 6 feet, and she bats 400. Wow. And it's, again, going back, where did I see Tom Brady? At a combine. Okay. And I'm not kidding. I'm not making this up. I want to say his 40-yard dash was over 5 flat. Well, who cares? He's Tom Brady, in high school. And that's not the type of quarterback he is or was. But if you see a receiver, and I remember seeing guys running 4.55s that ended up playing in the NFL because they were legit. So my point is, in softball, yeah, I'll look at camp information. I'll look at the Alistairs. They do a great job. And again, it goes back to who you trust, who produces events where top kids are playing against top kids. We were down at the Clearwater Fall Classic. That's put on by Team New Jersey. And yeah, Jim Barcelona did a fantastic. And the thing I like about that event is you had teams that you would not normally see playing each other. I have a picture somewhere where you have Marty Tyson is on the third base line and Rocky Thompson is in the dugout talking to him, because they're playing each other. You have the Bolts and a team that they normally wouldn't play because they play Alliance and Corona Angels. So that was the value for me, is I got to see girls that normally don't play because they're in the kind of 2 different organizations playing each other. So that's what I love about this sport, is people are willing to do these things to help the kids get in a position to show what they can do, be it the Allisters or a Jim Barcelona or, Triple Crown, PGF, everybody. So, yeah, and do they make money off of it? Sure. And that's part of the game. But at the same time, it's putting these kids in a position to be seen and to develop and get evaluated and recruited. And that's me on the sidelines saying, hey, congratulations, you're going to Michigan State. You're a fantastic pitcher, and you've done this. I love to tell your story.
Yeah. You said you don't get into the recruiting piece, but I have noticed, talking to college coaches, they'll be like, hey, I got this so-and-so kid and she's in the top 10, rankings right now. We got this kid coming in. She's a pitcher ranked one of the this or that, you know what I mean? And so I think to some degree, maybe you're not like directly involved in the recruiting process. I got to imagine that there's got to be some, just like you reach out there. There's got to be coaches that ask your opinion as well.
Yeah. And if I said it that directly, that I'm not involved in recruiting, and then I was wrong, because I am involved in the sense of, again, the media coverage. When Kaye does their National Player of the Year, State Player of the Year, do you consider that recruiting? It's media. Honoring this kid, it's media technically, but hey, if Keegan Rothrock, National Player, she's at Florida, had a great year. Okay, I had her number one. She was at the Gatorade National Player of the Year, but 4.0 kid, great story. Going to Florida, and so number one. So yeah, there is that crossover. You're covering these athletes. You're hoping. My job, I hope, is to tell their story and expose their accomplishments and successes to the world, and that includes college coaches. So yes, I'll have. What I typically hear about is in February or whenever the recruiting's done, I'll talk to an SID and they'll say, how did our class do? Well, I'll look at, let's say it's Oklahoma. That's an easy one. Well, you got the outfielder, you got the number 3 pitcher, you've got the number 2 catcher, you're number 1. And but sometimes I'll get, like a MAC school. And I'm just pulling this out. I'm not saying this happened, but like a Kent State would go, hey, where did you have our players? And let's just say, for simplicity's sake, I said, well, I had a kid that's 121 and a kid that was 170, and then maybe you had one that was 89. And that's crunchy editorial content that they can say, we got a pitcher who was ranked as the number 69 70th, 71st pitcher in the country. It's something that it's a number, it's a crunchy. Is she going to be the 71st best player in college? Maybe, maybe not. But it's just an honor. It's like a Gatorade National Player of the Year or USA Today honor or accomplishment. So that's how I look at myself, as I'm media, but hopefully, I had a college reach out to me not long ago saying, hey, how did we do in our recruiting in terms of, what you thought in terms of helping ourselves at this position or this position or this position. And so when the recruiting class is done, they can quote me. I can send them a note saying, yeah, you got an outstanding trio of pitchers coming in, and they can use that as content because the players are signed. And obviously coaches and SIDs and media, athletic people on the college side, they can't talk recruiting until the player is signed and officially ink their letter of intent. But so, yeah, I do. But I try not to do that too much, because then you're going to get into where you don't want college coaches trying to influence. Hey, Brentt, we signed this pitcher. You should have her number 1. And I generally don't talk to college coaches other than kind of, how you doing? Hey, great class. I love this kid. More of the conversational stuff, not just, I'm not trying to be an advisor or a magician or wizard or anything. Tell them how to do their fortune teller. Yeah. So
your background is in marketing. I read. How well do you think this game is being marketed outside of yourself? I saw ESPN, you've been involved with them. Obviously they're doing a great job with you can almost watch every single game on Plus, but have we hit like the pinnacle yet, or is the sport still growing? And if you could put a percentage on it, what would you say? Where are we right now
in terms of
growth, viewership, recognition of our female athletes?
I was at ESPN, I don't know how many 7-8 years ago. I worked there. And I worked in digital, and I had access to analytics, meaning TV ratings and such. And what surprised me, even back then, let's just say 5 to 10 years ago, college softball outdrew college baseball in the ranking department by 30%. In other words, the Women's College World Series would outdraw the Baseball College World Series. And so why do you see so much softball on ESPN? Because it draws people. It's a fast game. It's exciting. It's closer. It's just vibrant. And I always joked in baseball, man, it's 2-1 and the pitcher throws a curveball and it's outside, and it's, the batter steps out and spits out, and 3 minutes later he gets back in the box and cuts himself and the hat and helmet and everything, and it's just like, let's go. But softball's not like that. And bam, 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 bam. So I think what people have seen is it's a better TV sport in terms of speed and that type of thing. And even I was watching World Series and a guy hits a 800-foot home run, but you can't see the ball. Where to go? And you see everybody in the crowd react because it's, hitting the next county. But softball, it seems to be more intimate. So to answer your question, I don't think we're 50-60% of where we could be. And to me, it comes down to one thing. We have not had a viable pro league. I mean, there's excellent efforts out there. There's people trying. But it comes down to don't quote me on this number, but if a Jada Coleman makes $6,000 in a summer to play pro ball, that's not what this sport needs to get to where it should be and has the athletes to be. So to me, I think there's a double-edged sword to pro leagues, but if it can get to the point where someone could have a sustainable career and make decent money to put money away for 4, 5, 6 years, and then the athlete can have options. It's all about having options in life. And if she wants to be a coach herself, or she wants to teach private lessons or open a facility or start an organization, great. You have options to do that. You have some money behind you. But if you're making $5,000, $6,000 a summer, that's not going to be sustainable in terms of having a long-term pro career and entrenching yourself in the sport like you see other sports being able to do.
The other question I had for you on the marketing side of things, if you were a parent right now in 2024 and you had a 12, 13, 14-year-old daughter, from the marketing side, do you have any insight on that, or is there anything that you as a dad would do differently than you see people doing now?
It's a good question. I would say if you're really serious, and again, the family needs to be unified. Do the parents have the same goals as the player? If they do, and she wants to be the best and is willing to put in private lessons and nutrition and all that stuff, then find a good organization that plays at top events where you're going to get seen and you're going to play other top players so you can really get a sense of where you fit. And not every kid is an SEC kid. Not every kid is, a MAC or a Division II, or, some of the happiest people I've talked to are athletes who play at NAIA schools, because it's what they want. It's the experience they want. Or they might be going to a school which has a fantastic major and they want to be an electrical engineer or whatever. And that school has that opportunity to propel them past graduation. So I think if you're looking just purely on softball, these recruiting companies do a good job of marketing. And I think a lot of it is getting the film, getting the at-bats, getting the highlights and that. And, social media is great, but just get seen and have advocates for you, like a Randy Kaye, who can say, and the coaches, and if you talk to an ACC coach and they go, hey, coach, what do you think about this player? You have front row perspective, because maybe you just not only coaching her, but you're playing against her, or you're seeing, we played the Bat Busters, or we played somebody Mojo here, and that pitcher was really good. That's valuable information. So I think if you want to be the best, you got to play with the best you can. And that, going back to the rankings, a lot of times someone will say, hey, my girl batted 600 for the North Jersey Podunks Never Heard of Yous. And I'm going, okay, well, what level of competition did you play? Well, we played in Alaska and New Zealand. And it's like, you're not playing the elites. So false positive. Yeah. And that's where parents, God bless their hearts, they see little Janie go out and have a fantastic year, but that's great. And a lot of times we do get sleepers or kids that come through. But generally, if I get a call from a club coach going, Brentt, I've seen this player, you need to check her out. She beat us no hitter and threw 15 strikeouts. If that comes from a Randy Kaye, or if that comes from a Susie Williamson, or somebody like that I respect and does it for the right reason, which is to promote the kid and know that not, hey, I have a kid that threw 53 miles an hour and we won 8-7 and she gave up 7 earned runs. Okay, well, what do you want me to do with that? Well, can you rank her in the top 5? Not based on that. You're gonna have to give me some more feedback and info. So it's kind of playing detective, trying to see, and when I first started in the rankings, I didn't get kids who were overrated or over placed too highly in spots. And then people had started to see it as a marketing opportunity. And it's like, just because you get into rankings, that's not going to mean a college coach is going to offer you a scholarship. It might get you looked at.
Yeah, it helps. I mean, it's helpful. Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's a piece of the puzzle, right?
It's a resource. And I will get college coaches saying, and this is where they're smart. And a college, I'm going to pick a college out. Oklahoma State. They haven't done this, but let's say coach says, hey, we saw this girl that you have her in the top 10 and she's from Oklahoma and we don't know much about her. What can you tell me? They're doing their research. And I can say, well, and what they're also going to do, they're going to talk to the high school coach. They're going to talk to the players club coach. They're going to talk to the nutritionist. They're going to talk to the trainer. That's what they should do. They're doing the research. So we are, when I say we, like Line Drive or, in the media like this, we are a resource. And why all the resources at your, fingertips to try to find the best player for you? Or if I'm on your side and I really firmly and honest and believe that this kid is the best power hitter I've ever had, then why not promote her? Why not Brentt? She is the next Jocelyn Allo. Well, that's a huge statement. Why do you say that? And, and then, she had 4 home runs in, PGF Nationals. Okay. That weighs something. And, against this pitcher going to UCLA, she went 3 for 4. It's that kind of anecdotal stuff that you just build the case as a detective and talking directly to coaches and all this. But, yeah, it's not an exact science. It's speculative. Just like the NFL draft is not an exact science as much as they throw money at it and try to do it. All comes down to, is the kid peaked and does the kid have heart? Yeah.
I liked your comment about, the kid has to figure out what they want and the family needs to all be on board because there is in my opinion, there is a sacrifice. I mean, I know what it takes to give yourself an opportunity to get to that next level, whether it's a next level of ranking or next play at the next level of travel ball or, obviously going off into college. So I like that comment. I actually know a family that, moved in with their parents so they would be able to, give their kid, have the resources available to send their kid to training every week and do cold plunges and, make sure that they were able to recover and things like that. So that's a big piece. And then the other part about it being a resource of a coach seeing a kid, like it's funny because I have a kid that comes down for me from Washington that's she's in a smaller town in Washington. She plays on a club team that probably doesn't get the recognition that some do. But this kid came down and played with us in a pickup game in front of a college, and literally she's a 25, 68 miles an hour, up, down, off speed. I was like, there's got to be something wrong with this kid, but nobody just nobody really knew about her. And literally that night, that kid gets verbally offered to the college, to a college that we saw. So, we're all pieces of this resource, or we're all resources, I should say, in this whole thing. What do you think is next for the game? Like in general, like, you mentioned a pro league, you mentioned, some different things. What do you think is next?
What I'm hoping is next that there are viable options, playing wise, working wise, coaching wise, at all levels, not just Olympics, but international. And that's all. Look what Caitlin Clark did in the girls basketball side. She became a name and she's brought a lot of attention. And also she's brought a lot of competitiveness. People want to shut her down. You see opponents taking little cheap shots, but creating interest in the sport. We've got a very interesting sport. We've got interesting people. I think where it's going to go is it's going to continue to grow at the top, but I think it's going to continue to grow horizontally, meaning at our level, the youth level, the national, or I'm sorry, the high school level. I think it's going to continue to grow clubs and, from 10U, 12U. The sport is getting better. The coaching is getting better. The competition is getting better. Umpiring is getting better. So I think the sport is continuing to step up, and it's a pure sport that there will be something. Somebody will step up, and a lot of people think it'll have to be like the MLB system where you might have the St. Louis Cardinals, women's pro team, or who knows. Or yeah. And so that will happen in the next 5-10 years. But what I hope doesn't happen, when I first got into softball, what I loved about it is these girls were using this as a tool to get an education, which is really what you're supposed to be hoping for as you get an education, not that you're looking in pro league, because there's not a viable, well-paying pro league. But I would hope that it continues to be a resource. And my number one thing is somebody asked me, what's the best advice you can give to a parent? I say, keep your options open. Have as many options. If going to an NAI school or Division III school is the best, then look at it as an option. It's, again, you see this in boys sports. It's like, if I'm not going to the SEC in football, or I'm not going to Big Ten or whatever, that's great. You can aspire to that, but that doesn't mean you're going to be happy. And what I've loved, and I've seen these mature girls will pick a school because it's best for them in terms of personality or culture, and they're making a wise decision for their life, not just for their sport. So I would hope that people keep looking at softball as an option, and that there are more options in the sport. And that would include professional making money, but also open up. If we get more club organizations, there's more chances for coaching. There's more opportunities for trainers. And so some of the kids that might go through and make $6,000 a year playing, semi-pro, maybe they could find a full-time job as a trainer or as, something related to the sport. So I see it to grow because it's a beautiful sport. There's great people in it. And that's what I love the best. If you had to say, what do you love best about softball? I might surprise you. I might say, what I love best are the people. It's a competitive thing. They're doing it for the right reasons, not for the money. They're doing it because, like, club coaches like you have a daughter that plays, and then 30 years later, not you specifically, but I see these coaches all the time. Why are you still doing this? Because I love this is a pure venue for teaching, helping people get better. You see them grow in confidence. And that's what life is about, getting better. It's a George Bailey where he can't go off to college and he has to stay and run this small bit. I just watched this the other night, by the way. It's a Wonderful Life. But the point was, he was blessed because the people he had in his life, and people at the end came out. And when I switched and, switched companies earlier this year, I used the example. It was like a funeral. It was like I had died and I'm alive. And people are saying, thank you for what you do or have done for the sport. We hope you'll keep doing it. It was like, wow, I do get appreciated and get to hear from people that they like the softball content. That's been a blessing in my life, that I just don't do it and I don't get any feedback. I love the feedback I get. And that feedback can be critical. It could be, like you said, why isn't this girl here? Why you did a horrible job? Okay. Help me do the sport better. So that's why I love what I do. And I always thought I would not be happy if I wasn't in football or boys basketball or boys sports. I'm in girls softball and I'll never switch. Love what I do.
I love that. Brent, I usually ask for a final thought, but I think what you just said pretty much sums it up. I really appreciate you taking the time to join me today. I know you're a busy guy. You said you're at the NFC convention?
NFCA convention. We record this. It starts tomorrow, and I'll be there for a couple days, and then go back and start doing end of year stories. What were the top stories of the year in softball, and who are the top people? I mean, here we are. Christmas is a couple weeks away, and all of a sudden, the season's over, and we're looking forward to 2025. Just always have the next venture and mind and ahead of us. So already starting to look at what are we doing next spring and in high school softball and college and club next summer.
Well, I appreciate all you do. Like everyone else, I recognize that you're doing a great service to the sport and bringing awareness to it. Do me a favor, say hello to all the coaches out there. I have never been to the NFCA convention. I got to say it right now. I'm going to make it a point to get out there next year. I've got to go because I feel like I'm missing out every time this year. You know, I think they just changed it though, because it used to be the following week. And so is the reason I didn't go, but I'm going to try to get out there. But I appreciate all you do, man.
We'll be there next year. We'll compare notes.
All right. I just want to say thanks for listening. We will continue working to elevate the sport and get caught up with those who are influential in the fast pitch community. And hopefully we can help you navigate your softball journey. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Caught Up with Randy Kaye, or at Coach KAZ. You can also listen on Spotify, Google Podcast, iTunes very soon, or wherever you consume your audio podcast. You can also follow us on X and Instagram using the same handles, at Coach KAZ. Thanks again for listening. Have a great day.
This one's for my wife. Could have left 1,000 times just about my side.